I call upon the spirit of the owl, messenger of wisdom. Welcome to the temple of the owl. Merry meet, seekers of knowledge, for I am Matt's Owl, your host. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Here at the temple of the owl, deep in the forests of Northern California. In this episode, we will discuss, this is part 2 of witches in pop culture. And this is where we talk about spirituality and magic on all levels, and it's through the perspective of a modern witch. As always, these are just ideas to help you live a magical life. Take the information and do what you want with it. Special thank you guys listening on YouTube and Spotify. And a really special thank you for you guys listening on the KUAP Digital Broadcasting Troubled Minds Radio Network. I want to thank you guys for listening over there, and check out troubledminds.org to go and listen to some of the great conversations we have over there. So thank you guys for that. Well, I'd like to start the show off with what I call the MOD, or the message of the day. And it's a little quote that I find that helps me explain the show topic. And since today we're talking about witches in pop culture. So today's quote is, "Now is the time. This is the hour. Ours is the magic. Ours is the power." And that's from Nancy, Rochelle, and Bonnie in the movie The Craft. And it's one of the first movies that really got me into witchcraft. And I really wanted to do these shows, kind of a fun show, just to kind of have fun, talk about these movies, and understand why it's important that we know about these witches in pop culture, and what are they doing, why are they right in front of our faces, and just talk about these movies, and just kind of a fun, silly kind of episode. But I want to talk about these because they're fun to talk about, and look at these movies and see how witches are in pop culture. So of course, I had to do it. First up is Harry Potter. Now, Harry Potter is a series of 7 fantasy novels written by British author J.K. Rowling. The novels chronicle the lives of a young wizard, Harry Potter, and his friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger, all of whom are students at the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. The main arc of the story concerns Harry's conflict with Lord Voldemort, a dark wizard who intends to become immortal and overthrow the wizard governing body, known as the Ministry of Magic. Now, the non-magical people in the universe are known as Muggles, and he wants to dominate them. Harry Potter matters to witch pop culture because there's reasons that go deeper than wands and houses. It didn't just entertain. It reintroduced magic to an entire generation and reframed the witch as someone that you could be, not fear. For many modern witches, Harry Potter was the first spellbook. Not literally, but symbolically. It arrived at a moment when organized religion was losing authority and spirituality was resurfacing. Kids were hungry for meaning, identity, and belonging. Harry Potter said, "Magic exists, and you might be born into it, or you might rediscover it later. Either way, you belong." And that's revolutionary, because before Harry Potter, witches in pop culture were usually evil, and we talked about Snow White and the Wizard of Oz in the last episode. The comic relief, or an isolated or punished sometimes. But Harry Potter did something radical. It normalized witches. Witches had schools and communities and moral complexity. The magic itself wasn't evil. It was a skill, a responsibility. Hogwarts isn't just a school. It's an initiation system. If you think about it, you're called when you're ready. You cross a hidden threshold, and you're sorted. Your identity is revealed. You're trained in secret knowledge, you face trials, and you graduate changed. Now that mirrors the mystery schools, the witches' initiations, and the shamanic callings of the esoteric traditions. Even the moving staircases feel right. Now Harry Potter pulls heavily, from traditions, even Harry Potter pulls heavily from real magic traditions. It has like herbology, folklore, it has wands, it has sympathetic magic, it has spell language. They use Latin ritual phrasing, and the potions, and the alchemy, and the cunning of craft, familiars, animal spirits, and enchanted talismans. One of the most witchy truths about Harry Potter is that magic itself is neutral, and intention matters. Dark magic isn't tempting because it's evil, it's tempting because it's easy, fast, and powerful. But it requires restraint. Knowledge requires responsibility, and fear corrupts magic faster than desire. Even Voldemort isn't powerful because he's evil. He's powerful because he's obsessed with control and immortality. The series says magic doesn't belong to powerful. It belongs to those who answered the call. Now, Harry Potter didn't teach people how to be witches. It taught them that magic could belong to them. And once that idea takes root, it's hard to extinguish. Now, like the Harry Potter series, they're interesting and they do have good, teaching you things about witchcraft that I feel is important. And it brought a whole new generation of kids to give them some magic to look at. And I see people, acting like Harry Potter, and that's pretty cool. So up next we have a really good movie, the movie Practical Magic. Practical Magic is a 1998 American romantic fantasy film based on the 1995 novel by Alice Hoffman. It was directed by Griffin Dunne, and it stars Sandra Bullock, Nicole Kidman, and Diane West. Now Bullock and Kidman play sisters, Sally and Gillian Owens, descended from a long line of witches, and raised by their aunts after their parents' death from a family curse. The sisters are taught the uses of practical magic as they grow up, and years later, Sally and Gillian must use their magic to destroy the evil spirit of Gillian's abusive boyfriend before it kills them. Now, Practical Magic isn't just a witch movie, it's a spell designed as a rom-com. And that's exactly why it's so important to witch pop culture. It didn't teach spectacle, it taught belonging. Now, on the surface, Practical Magic is about two sisters raised by eccentric aunts, a family curse tied to love spells, midnight margaritas, and a murder gone wrong. But underneath, it's about generational trauma, inherited magic, and sisterhood, and reclaiming power. This movie normalized something radical at the time: witches as everyday women. They cook, they clean, they love, and they grieve. But they mess up. Magic isn't flashy. It's woven into life. It reflected real folk witchcraft, kitchen magic, and herbalism. It had protective charms and intuitive spellwork. For many witches, this was the first time magic felt familiar, because the aunts were a crone witches. They represent wisdom without cruelty. They don't explain magic, they embody it. They were the grandmothers many witches wished they had. They were the keepers of tradition, a deep knowing. The Owens curse isn't really about love. It's about fear of intimacy. It has repeated patterns and generational wounds. That's real magic theory. Unhealed trauma repeats like a spell until someone breaks it. And who breaks it? Not a man, not a savior, a circle of women. The final ritual is one of the most accurate depictions of folk magic in pop culture. And it matters because it uses personal items, it involves singing and intention. This is not Hollywood witchery. This is witchcraft, a sense alone, coveted by thousands. Now, before practical magic, witches were solitary and dangerous. But after practical magic, witches were sisters. They were healers, and they love, and they gave permission to be magical and vulnerable. Because it says you can be powerful without being cold, and you can be magical without being alone. It's not fantasy, it's craft. Practical magic matters because it taught us that magic lives in kitchens, and it's about women holding each other up. And that's the kind of witchcraft that survives. Now, I really like that movie. I saw that movie in theaters when I was a little kid, and I didn't really get it at the time. But I went back and rewatched it, and it's a really good movie. It's, kind of like I said, it's a rom-com. It's funny. It's got good storyline. But I like it because it does it put witchcraft in the zeitgeist. Up next, we have a movie I was talking about earlier. One of my favorites is a movie called The Craft. It's from 1996, and it's a teen supernatural horror film directed by Andrew Fleming. And it stars Robin Tunney, Neve Campbell, and Rachel True. They're outcasts of teenage girls at a Los Angeles high school who pursue witchcraft for their own gain and experience negative repercussions. The Craft isn't just another teen horror movie. It's a warning spell, an initiation story, and a cultural lightning bolt for many witches in pop culture. Where movies like Practical Magic whispered, The Craft summoned. On the surface, The Craft is about 4 teenage girls discovering witchcraft and their power spiraling out of control. But underneath, it's about trauma and rage belonging, the seduction of power through spiritual ethics, and what happens when magic becomes ego. In this classic initiation myth with consequences, the part, "We are the weirdos, mister," is a line that shaped a generation. The Craft gave language to outsiders. It said, you don't have to fit in. You don't have to be soft. But you don't have to ask for permission. For teens, especially girls, it was radical. Unlike most films, The Craft drew heavily from real Wiccan and folk magic sources. It had circle casting, calling the quarters, and elemental magic. The spell ethics of the Rule of 3. It wasn't perfect, but it felt authentic. Witches watching it recognized something true. The girls work with Manon, a nameless, formless deity. Now, Manon represents raw power. His nature is chaos and divine without morality. It mirrors real pagan beliefs. Power itself isn't good or evil. It amplifies what's already there. And Nancy isn't the villain because she uses magic. She becomes the villain because she uses her magic to dominate. And her story reflects trauma, turning into control, and power without grounding, magic without ethics. Now, Nancy is what happens when rage becomes identity. She's tragic, not monstrous. And Sarah survives because she knows when to stop. She understands her boundaries, and she chooses restraint. That's real witchcraft. The power includes walking away. Now, before the craft, witches were fantasy and magic was spectacle. But after the movie The Craft, witches were teenagers and the magic had consequences. The ethics mattered and power required balance. It sparked a resurgence in real-world witchcraft interest in the late 90s. Books flew off the shelves, candle shops opened, and circles formed. It didn't romanticize anything. It shows that magic can harm, and power can corrupt. The craft matters because it taught us that magic won't save you, it will reveal you. And what it reveals is your responsibility. And I like that one, like I said, a lot of people, including myself, caught on after that movie, and that really got us into thinking that, witchcraft is real, and maybe got people into it. Like I was talking about books flying off the shelves and opening candle shops, resurgence happened after that movie. Up next we have Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus is a 1993 American fantasy comedy directed by Kenny Ortega. And it follows a villainous comedic trio of witches: Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Naomi. They're eventually resurrected by a teenage boy in Salem, Massachusetts on Halloween night. Now, Hocus Pocus looks silly on the surface. It's campy and chaotic, but its place in witchy pop culture is way more important than what people give credit for. It didn't teach fear or ethnics. It taught access. Now, on the surface, Hocus Pocus is a Halloween comedy about 3 over-the-top witches, a curse, a black flame candle, and some kids. But underneath, it's about witches surviving persecution. It's about female power returning from the dead, and the tension between magic and modernity, reclaiming joy after fear. It's a resurrection story. You have Winifred, the intellect, the spellcaster, the leader. Sarah, the sensual magic voice, an allure. And Mary, she represents domestic magic, hunger, and instinct. Together they form a complete witch figure. Not 3 villains, but one spell split into parts. It mirrors real magic structures, the triple goddess energy. The Sandersons were explicitly witches from Salem. They were executed, and they came back. Hocus Pocus did something rare. It let witches return after execution, and they don't apologize, and they don't repent. They sing. Hocus Pocus treats magic as messy, funny, and joyful. It matters because play is a form of magic. Laughter breaks fear spells. Many witches first felt drawn to magic because it looked fun, not terrifying. The black flame candle is pure occult symbolism. Black means liminal, protective, and death. The flame equals the spirit of life, initiation. A virgin lighting it equals innocence and awakening power. It's an initiation image. Whether the writers meant it or not, it made witches lovable and claimed Halloween as magical, not demonic. It gave kids permission to enjoy witch imagery, and it softened the fear without erasing the power. It became a ritual viewing every October, and we watch that movie every Halloween. Hocus Pocus matters because it reminded us that witches don't just haunt, they return, and they sing. And sometimes the most powerful magic is joy. Well, those are some of my favorite movies that I want to talk about tonight. and we're running out of time. But I have those movies. We have a lot more coming up. I think I'm going to keep doing this keep this theme going with a couple of these witches and pop culture, because it's out there, and it's right in front of our faces in books, TV, movies, in video games, and in music. And I feel like that's important, that's there, and that we take it and we learn from it. And so those are some of my favorite movies. We'll do different types of episodes coming up, like I said, from books and movies and stuff. And I want to know, let me know in the comments, what is your guys' favorite witches in pop culture? And what's your favorite stories? What's your favorite, it could be anything, video games, movies, books, TV, music. But I think it's important that we kind of take this stuff and pick it apart and learn about it. And I wanted to talk about those because it's important to me to see how we have witches in, like I said, right in front of our faces in the zeitgeist. And what are they doing? Are they trying to show us? Things that are real, or are they trying to throw us off the path? What's going on here? Well, I want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys. Check out Spotify. Check out YouTube. And we also have templeoftheowl.com. Right now, I'm going to say thank you guys for listening on Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. I'm going to release the spirit of the owl. This is Matt's Owl saying have a good night. Thank you guys for listening. Blessed be.